Morning, John here. I am super excited to introduce you to this conversation that I had with a friend of mine, Don Canada. Now, Don is someone that I love connecting with, and he is an expert in one of the biggest costs for any business, employee benefits. Loved talking with Don because I have an employee benefits background. I have some experience with it professionally, personally, and also for many, many years, I've realized that one of the biggest increase in costs for businesses is employee benefits. So I love talking with Don how he flipped the model for himself and then also how he's helping businesses. Really, it's become a game changer and a competitive advantage in the marketplace. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation. He's certainly an expert at what he does and very good at communicating what he does and how he helps people. So enjoy this conversation with Don Canada.
All right. Good morning. Welcome to the Intense Life with John Mashni. And I'm here with an awesome individual. His name is Don Canada. And he is what I would say is an expert on healthcare and advising businesses about healthcare and wellness and the benefit side, how to attract employees, how to not just control costs, but also make people feel special and feel like, hey, they're getting taken care of. So, Don, welcome from the state of Texas.
Thank you, John. It's a privilege to be here. I've been looking forward to this date and time.
Yeah, great to have you. And why don't you share a little bit more about yourself? Because I know you have a really unique background in the insurance, healthcare, wellness space. And it's really interesting to me.
Yeah, well, one, I'll give you credit because if I go through the last 15 years and ask people who's read the Affordable Care Act other than myself, you're one of three, by the way, that I've run across. And typically they work for insurance companies and are executives. But
lawyers.
Yeah. So let's see here. So, one of my greatest educations was at United Parcel Service when I was going to college back in the late 80s and early 90s. And went into management and managed a team of over 50 people that were typically 20 years older than me, and ran a night shift from 10 at night. Sounded good to go to work at 10 at night and get off at 4 o'clock in the morning and then go to school. And got a business education with my college education during that 6-year stint. Didn't take me 6 years to get out of school. It took me 6 years to get out of UPS. So knew that I wanted to go into business for myself. Learned from a large Fortune blue chip company. Didn't know what that looked like. Talked to my father. He said, you should go into the insurance business. And I have a close relationship with my dad. And I told him over the phone, I said, why would I do that? Those guys lie, steal, cheat, sleep with your wife, and they lose all their hair and smoke cigars all day long. My father paused for a good interval and told me I don't have to do it that way. And so I really built a practice in this industry based on the antithesis of the insurance agent, with a primary focus on the group health plan, the largest number. And I showed up at work. I told the truth. I promised things. I accomplished things, and everybody knew where I stood. So built that business model from 95 to 2016. But what happened in the middle was in 2008, after being established over a decade in the industry as a leading producer on the broker side of the fence. Heard Nancy Pelosi in 2010. I got in strategic coach in 2008. That helped tremendously. 2010, Nancy Pelosi told everybody to read what's in the bill, pass the bill, then read what's in it. And I took personal onerous in that, and I was like, oh my gosh, this could be my livelihood. So I did literally read 3,508 pages, known as PPACA, and it was 5 pounds of paper. My son walked by the dining room table and he goes, my gosh, Dad, how much does that weigh? It must be like 5 pounds. He was pretty close to the mark at that time. So I learned real quickly inside of the legislation that nobody's reading it, including your senator. So I wanted to know what was in it before everybody else, and y'all are still finding out what's in it from me today, actually 15 years later.
That's right.
And ultimately, I knew if I was going to thrive and survive through the next decade that things had to change. So became a speaker, started working on providing continuing education credits to the Texas Society of CPAs, doing all the road shows in the big cities, and did ACA under 50 employees for an hour and 45 minutes. And then I jumped back on stage and did ACA for over 51 employees for another hour and 45 minutes. The ironic thing was I became an Ironman and a triathlete during this time. And it was sparked by Nancy Pelosi pissing me off, making me want to make change after building a successful business, building a beer belly and eating Bluebell ice cream is what I call it. And it just happened to be timing. And I'm not a college athlete, but I've always been an athlete. And I felt the need to rebirth myself. Found myself in my late 40s and 5% body fat and best shape of my life.
Wow.
Yep. So I competed and completed Ironman events. Had a chance to exit for the second time, actually. I turned the first one down previously, a decade before with Compass Bank. I had the option to exit and let the good guys take care of my clients, and wrote a unique contract. Wasn't really an M&A in your legal world. It was more of a services contract. And, played around for a few years, figuring out what's next, and quickly started having clients call me on the third year saying, "Hey, this firm's not doing what you used to do. We're being moved around all the time. I don't understand why we have to change carriers." And I was like, "That's the bonus." So I came back on the grid, took a handful of my clients back contractually to birth the fee model. And easiest way to say it is, I used to be the broker on the other side of the fence. I've been to Half Moon Bay. I've had Blue Cross putting money under my pillows. I've had them pay for my golf and my massages and all that stuff and tell me I'm a top producer. And at the end of the day, I was working for Blue Cross Blue Shield. That's where my check came from, and United Healthcare, and I can name 15 others. But I was working for the insurance company. So when I came back in after reading the Consolidated Appropriations Act, CAA, not ACA, I learned that transparency is the new way forward. It's even blending into our presidential campaigns and stuff. And with transparency, the only way I could delineate and be pure was to not accept any outside compensation, no brokers, no insurance companies, no kickbacks, no bonuses, no lavish trips, no buying your business with master's tickets, like real substance and like real advice from like somebody that really knows. So
yeah,
that's what I did. Came back in 2.5 years ago, built a beautiful model called the Employee Benefit Coach. And it's extremely interesting. I've taken 30 years of my stuff and reduced it to about 3 minutes.
Wow. And I love it. So you're not a broker at all. You don't actually sell the products.
No, let me be really clean. So I am a licensed broker, and that keeps me in tune with the marketplace. I have a handful of commission clients in a separate company called Silicon Benefits. It's been on the grid for over 25 years. And I take care of those people. I have not plugged any new business into Silicon Benefits with intent over the last 5 years.
Yeah. So it's a really unique space, I think.
It's high-end consulting. I need to be really clear. If you work for a big business, you're kind of immune from all this stuff I talk about. I mean, you know from reading it, John, that the ACA really gave a joker card to the insurance companies and basically, these trading of cards haven't helped the consumer at all. So what I want to do is I just want to spread truth and transparency. I know you're into sharing stories and sharing, truth sayers and stuff like that. I just want people to know what I know. And then I want them to be able to use that information to their advantage, mostly an economic advantage, because there's a lot of waste inside of our health plans. So that's where I am. I've got my third business rolling. I am extremely excited about the team that I work with. We're growing. I get to make all the rules. I don't have shareholders. I don't have quotas. I don't have commitments. I have like real relationships we're trying to develop with people that are worthy, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think that's great. I love your model, how it evolved with how you evolved. And I also love, I think you're at a really important point with all the different trends that are converging, right? I think it's harder and harder for small businesses to operate. But I also think there's a trend where people are becoming more and more disillusioned with big business, with not having control over their future. So people are moving into the small business space or starting, going off on their own, or, breaking off from what they're doing to do it on their own. it's a huge trend, and I think it's only going to get bigger.
Well, you know this, John. So I say Obama created the independent contractor movement. Okay, so before you didn't go start your own business because you were worried about health insurance, right, and the cost of it, and whether you could get it or not back in the old days. And then the other thing was maternity. I mean, you didn't have typically real maternity benefits on individual policies. So if you really wanted to go start your own company or start a small team, I mean, you were taking a large step from an employer providing you
Expensive.
benefits to now
Yeah.
this is all your jam, and the costs are tremendous, as you know. So I say that it created an independent contractor movement. You can see it everywhere. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I know that have left enterprises that are starting their gigs in the last 6 months. Tons of
Yeah.
them, tons of them. And that's because you have maternity benefits now, John, not just your wife, Nicole. You have maternity benefits if you decide to do that Danny DeVito, Arnold Schwarzenegger thing and have a baby. That's part of how healthcare reform was passed. And secondarily, it's all guarantee issue. Everybody gets it now. There's no pre-existing on ACA policies. There's no disqualification. It's actually quite the opposite, right?
Yeah. Well, here's where I'm super interested. I'd love to get your take on this. I've been saying for the last 5 to 7 years, especially when I started to like look at more of expenses and where money goes in a business. I came from big law firms. I worked ran a media company for about 10 years. So I wasn't as involved in like the benefit side, expense side. I just worked for somebody else, got my insurance through my wife. But once I started to look at how much money was being spent
On you or the organization?
on benefits, how much the organization
Yes.
spent on
Yes.
benefits, it really shocked me. And what was interesting too was year over year, it was not a static expense. It was always going up. And the rate that it was going up was higher than the rate other expenses were increasing.
18, 19% of GDP. I mean, seriously.
That's amazing.
I have a friend of mine that I went to high school with. Is like Rain Man of finance, commercial real estate. All right, and he's identified in conversations over lunch with me. He says, always hone in on the variable cost. How can we take the risk out of the equation? That's what lawyers like to do. How can we take the risk out of the equation? And he messages to me. He says the problem with your stuff. I mean, I got to tell him a story. A 16-person company got a $199,000 increase from United Healthcare. Okay, I'll spare you all the other details, but $8,000 for that company writing the check for their employees that month went to 24 if something don't change. That's a bankrupt
Crazy.
situation. So I've already started the platform. I'm on chapter 3, and I'm not going to release it till next year, but I am on what's named the Great Resignation of Small Employer Health Plans. And I'm convinced, and I did this on Armando's podcast as well, and if anything ever goes viral on one of my things here, it's right here, by the way, is that I'm firmly convinced if you are holding on to your group health plan with your old traditional mindset that you're going to be buying your health insurance from the government in 2030. All right. And that's dismissing all these ACA change going on 2025, all that other stuff that won't happen, by the way. And I'm just saying that employers in a huge predicament right now. You can throw a rock across Texas and doesn't matter the size of the company, but under 200 employees, 700 per head per month, $1,000 per employee. So now you have 50 employees. You have $50,000 of premium. You have $600,000 of health insurance premium going out the door. And this is what it really looks like because of poor communication, is that the employer hates the process. He hates the whole show. He hates the insurance. He hates to have to think about it. He hates to have to deal with it. And they typically dump things down the corporate ladder somehow. Second of all, the employees have this broker come in a fancy Jaguar and walk into the owner's office, close the door, and make all these benefit decisions, and then come out and tell me how much I'm going to pay. The system is broken. All right. It's broken from the insurance company down to the brokerage or agency, down to the broker or agency. And then the employer's part of the ACA problem, the who killed healthcare problem. And the employers don't change their plans very often. Large employers very rarely do. And if they do change their plans, they're trying to fight this rate adjustment. So the rude awakening and healthcare reform is a term I like to teach people in every show that I do, which is out-of-pocket maximum. Okay? Back in the old days, nobody understands the terminology. 96% of Americans can't define 4 critical terms in health insurance, and that's one of them, by the way. What y'all thought you knew back in the old days was deductible. It's the simplest thing,
Yeah.
first thing in front of you, right? But you really don't know how your deductible works. I mean, I like to say in redneck terms, that's that stuff you got to pay after you pay your premium before the insurance company pays, right? But ultimately, now with Obamacare in 2014, the Affordable Care Act, it basically means your deductible, your co-pays, your out-of-pocket maximum, that maximum number each year that you can't pay more than uh, is all wrapped up together. So don't go learn deductible, co-insurance, copay. Just focus on the out-of-pocket maximum, because that means that back in the old days, when my mother, three-time cancer survivor, when my mother had a plan in the early 2000s, it was a $250 deductible, no more than $1,000 out of her pocket. She went to MD Anderson. She had treatment and never spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of treatment. Never spent more than $1,250 when she was in network. Even if she went out of network, it was like $2,000 to pick her own doctors. So these are like minimal things 20 years ago, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Fast forward. This is where I caution y'all. It's not just the premium, because now you don't care about deductible. You just see the premium number, right? And it's not just about the premium. It's about your total financial exposure before the insurance company pays 100%. And those plans,
Exactly.
John, look like this these days. $6,000 deductible, $9,100 out of pocket. That deductible's built in. I just said $9,100. I didn't say $1,250.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so when the out-of-pocket maximum was installed, I was like, wow, man, my mom will never have to pay more than $6,250 was the first number, by the way. Okay. And I was like, that's a great thing if you have cancer. I don't go to the doctor. That's not a good thing for me, because I can't take a plan that has a higher $25,000 out-of-pocket maximum deductible. Sign me up. Cut $200 off that rate. I'm there as a healthy person playing the stock market. Past experience dictates future performance. And ultimately, I know it's protective element. I know the ACA, I've never lost touch with it, is to insure the masses. That's it. That's all we need to know. Generate the cash to do that. But here's the deal, is our out-of-pocket maximum has gone 4 times, 5 times what it used to be.
Yeah.
And it's not just your premium going 10 times, by the way, in that time period. It's your out-of-pocket maximum. And then let me illustrate in-network benefits, meaning that you're using their doctors and their hospitals, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, whatever it may be. And then in a PPO, preferred provider organization, you have out-of-network benefits. And back in the old day, I expressed to you, my mom's out-of-network, out-of-pocket maximum was $2,000. Okay? But let me explain. When you go out of network, that doctor, that hospital, that laboratory, that pharmacy is not under contract. They can charge you whatever they want. And whatever the insurance company pays for, reasonable and customary in your legal language, whatever the insurance company pays, that's it. And then you pay the rest. So the doctor, hospital, lab comes after you for the balance bill, is what it's called. They're balance billing you. When you're in a PPO network, that doctor, hospital has to provide that service at that cost. When they're outside, my mom, she's having trouble getting diagnosed, diagnostician of Austin, Texas, $2,500 office visit. Told her, honey, I told my mom beforehand, I said, Blue Cross is going to pay $48. She goes, what? Like $48. That's a doctor's office visit. That's a high-end doctor saying, I hate insurance, come see me. All right. And maybe there's a need for that, right? But ultimately, he told hunting stories, may have this, may have that, whatever. And it was $2,500 out of her pocket and no result technically. These days, that would be $9,100. Okay. So let me do the family thing, since you're a family guy. $9,100 out of pocket times me and my 2 or more family members is really $27,300. So I now have a premium of, say, $25,000 a year annually, just pure premium. I don't care who's paying it. 25 grand. This is KFF. This is like real statistics. 25 grand a year to insure a family. Now add that 27,300 to it. The out-of-pocket maximum for each one of y'all. Okay. Now let's go out of network in that PPO. When I go out of network in the PPO, back in the old days, my mom's plan said 2,000. 5-10 years ago, they'd say 4,000, 6,000. They say a word now called unlimited. Now, when people read that, hey, my out-of-pocket's 9,100 in network, my out-of-pocket's unlimited out of network. This is great. I'm going out of network. It means your financial exposure is unlimited. And so this is stuff that was never on the table 10 years ago, guys. All right. So I say that, what's your total financial exposure? It's your premium, 25K a family is what I mentioned. It's your out-of-pocket maximum. Maybe yours is 6 or 9 or whatever. Let's call it 27,300. And then unfortunately, here's that variable my buddy James talks about that you can't budget for. unlimited. If I have a heart attack and I want the best surgeon and I know that I need him, back in the old days, I'd make the decision, I'd pay double. I'd pay double out of pocket, right? Nowadays, I could be writing a check for $200,000 or $300,000.
So, Don, is there hope? Or let me phrase it this way. I think I fully understand, and I think a lot of people listening would understand that costs are just going up in an extraordinary fashion. Is there, well, what I've been saying for years is that if you can understand how to not just control these healthcare costs, but do it in a way that actually adds value to people, so they're do it in a way that doesn't maybe just pass the buck or pass
Right,
that
which
cost
is
on.
what's been happening. Employers just been passing this cost off to the
Yeah.
employees and their families.
Yep. So to me, the competitive advantage in business is potentially being able to control your healthcare costs. Do you think that's true, or where are you at?
100%. And you're visionary, actually. And the legislation precedes us in this conversation. So go back to my great resignation of small employer health plans, right? I mean, what are small employers going to do? Well, I know you got to attract, recruit, and retain talent. And I understand since World War II, right after salary, that conversation is, what about my benefits? Okay, I teach my clients to flip the conversation and to build a benefit program, and maybe not the traditional way that y'all been doing it. And we start the hiring conversation with, hey, here's how great our company is. Here's the great benefits our employees enjoy working up here, and having that conversation. And then I'm not saying devalue the salary number. I'm saying that you are in a competitive situation now to where most people, you sign up just like you did, John, at your lawyer thing, even with all your reading stuff. I mean, there's all my benefit paperwork. Oh my gosh, bam, let's get signed up. All right, there it is. Put my ID card in my pocket. Hope I don't go. That's the model,
That's
right? And so basically, in my opinion, employers need to take control. All right. And what that means is that everything, you're on the bottom of the mountain, and the doo-doo is rolling down the mountain. And it starts at the insurance company. And then it's the pharmacy benefit manager. Or if you're Aetna, now it's your pharmacy benefit manager owns your insurance company, Aetna, all right, CVS. And ultimately, after it goes there, you got your hospitals, you got your doctors, I'm sorry. I was there too as a broker. We all work for the insurance company, whether we admit it or not. I don't any longer. All right. Haven't in a long time. But what's happening is that I'm not in control of anything as an employer. I have 60 days by law. I get my renewal, and Blue Cross says my rates are going up 15%. And at that intersection, as an employer, John, with your company, you're behind the game. You're behind the eight ball.
Yep.
You don't have enough time to start the process that late. We encourage our clients to start 180 days early. And the first thing they tell us is, well, our broker doesn't get the renewal until 60 days. And I was like,
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. So you're going to wait on him and let him control the process, let the insurance company control the timeline, make sure that your final destination is determined by them, not you, the employer. It's just simply taking control and letting the insurance companies, the employers need to let them know, I don't work for y'all. I'm not here to have government pass legislation and burden myself. So let's take the other side of the coin. Wouldn't it be a godsend to go to any employer under 50 employees and say, hey, Mr. Mashni, would you like to get out of the health insurance business? Because I don't think you ever started the business to learn how to run health insurance and do all the paperwork for the government and the insurance companies. How would you like just to get rid of this stuff?
Amen. Yeah, it'd be amazing.
No risk, no compliance problems, all this ERISA stuff you know about? I mean, seriously, you literally take the player and you take it off the field, and you say, okay, now what's left? Well, I know what's left, and you do too. It's how do you get people to come work with you? And it's communication. Yep. I've always learned that a poor plan with good communication has a higher perceived value than a poor plan with good communication. So take a poor plan and do good communication, your perception level of what's happening. And yes, there is a way, what I say in a quotation style, is there's a way to reduce cost in health insurance without sacrificing benefits.
So I do want to talk about that, because I think it's easy to get doom and gloom because there is some negative trends that are happening. Where's the hope? Give us some hope, or give me some hope as I talk to clients.
Hope is mindset. It's employer mindset. So the target market, whether you're, 2 employees to 200, the small, mid-sized sector that I specialize in because it's the underserved market. I've had hospitals that I've worked with and insured for 800 employees. So I'm really just taking my talent that the big boys have, dropping down to where the other people don't want to play, which is that underserved marketplace. The hope is to take control, change your mindset and take control of your plan. Anybody in any business in any industry can take control by learning and understanding the process that exists and retweaking that process designed for the company. We're all running insurance company process. Open enrollment's a government process, guys. This isn't like I started a plan, hey, I'm going to do open enrollment because I think it's cool. It doesn't happen like that, all right? These are mandates and ultimately stuff that employers have to do. And they hate it and they loathe it and they leave that up to my broker. I leave that up to the insurance company to generate that SBC. I mean, I have a whole segment on teaching people how to read their summary benefits coverage. And I won't fumble on screens, but if I showed you one right now, if I showed you yours, there is so much bold print, there is so much underlined stuff that even though they were trying to standardize to where people could understand what their benefits are, they just made a mess of it. Okay, so if you're handing that out to you, John starts at, law firm and, hey, here's your employee benefit kit, here's applications, here's a summary benefit coverage. You don't even know what you have. Did they really communicate the value of what they're offering and paying for? Employers pay $7,500 a year for this stuff, guys. I said it earlier, for an employee. And so, what I teach people is that focus on communication. It's 70% of all business problems. It's damn sure your problem if you're following the broker model of communicating. Customize stuff. Do you have somebody in-house? Can you outsource some of these features, graphics, messaging, whatever it may be, to have a brochure like Children's Hospital has in Dallas, Texas? You can do that, as you well know, with technology and a little bit of oomph by taking control. So the first thing I teach people is that you need to take control of the process, the employer. You need to take control of the process, and you need to start dictating the timeline. And there is nothing that prohibits you from saying, you know what, I'm really tired of waiting around till 60 days to do, no strategic planning, just do this reactionary process. I would like to meet with you 180, your current broker. I'd like to meet with you 180 days out so we can start talking about strategy. Two things are going to happen.
Wow.
There's no such thing as strategy in small group health insurance, all right? That's just a reactionary process. Nobody has a strategic plan. If you find one, send them to me. I doubt it. All right. They don't, nobody, all the stuff they do in financial modeling, it's insurance. It's ick. I mean, what we do is we stress test plans. I stress just like a bank would stress test, just like a financial institution would stress test. And it's not the same criterion or as much is involved, but group health insurance is very complex. And I've identified 12 items that shows whether, you're doing good or doing poor in those areas. And, I hate to say
plan?
it per account, like,
Okay,
John's,
per account, yeah.
your company and, and here's the plan or 3 plans that we offer or whatever, but, taking control, making sure that, hey, this is the way I want to see the benefits roll out. I want to have a monthly check-in with the broker. And, there's going to be all kinds of bad things that happen. So this isn't the good advice because he's going to pawn you off to the girl, the assistant, the executive account manager, right? She's at the cooler, sexting and texting her boyfriend. She's not taking care of your account. This is the way big companies work, all right? This is the way it works. So as a small company, just say no. Take control of stuff. Hey, this is what I want. I want higher level reporting. I want more instantaneous reporting. I don't want to hear that I had all these damn claims 30 days before I'm supposed to make a decision. And any company can do what I'm talking about right here by just putting in, hey, this is the way I want to run my group health plan instead of everybody else telling y'all how to run it, except for me.
So is the solution a lot of times getting someone to help you with the process? Or is there a way to actually lower some of the costs or stop the increase or stop the acceleration in costs?
There's easy stuff. So as a thought leader in this industry, let me be real clear here is that I'm not here to replace anybody's broker. You need your broker. broker doesn't want to play, I can teach you how to go direct. It's not a threat, but I mean, ultimately, in that small group, you're going to need a broker, but you're also going to need to start holding your broker accountable, starting early, helping us develop communication that's meaningful to our account, making sure that we're in compliance or have any other third-party administrator functions that we need to make sure we've got the back door closed on. And what I'm teaching people is to have a different conversation with their broker and position yourself. You're the one writing the check. Why are y'all listening to everything that's being fed down to y'all, right?
And they're big checks too, Don.
They're huge. I mean, 1,000 a head. Call it 100 employees,
what I
or
think of-
100,000 a month.
Yeah, I think of if I would have to increase my rates by the amount that health insurance would go up,
Nope.
you just can't do it.
Nope. I've had clients in the surveying industry in Texas say exactly those words. Don, when the increase came as the broker, hey, Don, I can't raise my rates 15% and expect that my clients will renew with me. I've also learned that health insurance is like liquor, beer, and cigarettes, by the way. It's
What do you
always
mean?
in demand, no matter what's going on.
Got it. So in terms of, is there a way out? Is it just to get someone like you to give some advice or counsel or to look at everything? Is there a way kind of off the treadmill, so to speak?
Yeah, so change management, right? So people hate change. People hate to introduce other options. People are going to tell you, hey, I know my broker. I trust him for the last 10 years. So there's, I wrote down before our session today that I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the emotional quotient. And I think you agree that I've heard from some of your other content that, not in your words, but 70%, my mentor's words, 70% of decisions are made with the reptilian brain. It's an emotional component. And I think that stigma, I learned, my mentor taught me a long time ago. He says, hey man, you're going to be on the bottom of the pile. What do you mean I'm going to be on the bottom of the pile? People hate insurance. You're going to go into their office. They're going to dig through their box. They're going to find your stuff on the very bottom, hoping they never got to it. And so how do you get past that? So when I mentioned mindset on purpose, all right? So you have to change your mindset. You have to want to take control, and you have to be vulnerable. Why do CEOs not push back? You have an idea?
Gosh, I don't know. Why?
All your employees are looking up at you as a leader. You don't know anything about employee benefits. My employee benefit plan sucks. So there's a thing in there. And so I talk about passing the buck. They'll pass it down to a finance manager, not a certification, a title, a human resource generalist, not a certification, a title. SPHR is the title, the certification. And they assign, these responsibilities. So I've written articles about it. When that CEO comes to John, in the media department and says, hey, you know what? You got a new hat today, buddy. You're in charge of employee benefits. That legal stuff's going to help us a lot here. And all of a sudden now you have that role and responsibility with no training. Technically, you're an exception. No training, no idea what you're supposed to do. Just like you walk by the office and they gave you another title. That's extreme.
Yeah.
From a lawyer standpoint, I wanted to hone in on this for you. That is extremely liable, especially in a small company and considering human resource issues, right?
Yeah. Well, a lot of times too, if you study HR, so to speak, this just kind of gets lumped in, but there's not really training, right? Even in a finance seat, typically HR is under a finance seat, if you think about it, right? Even in the people that run EOS, like HR is under typically finance, IT, HR. It's all one kind of accountability.
Think about the
seat.
disconnect, though. You got a finance title guy, CEO punted it down to the CFO. What do you just say? I hate this shit. You do it. Okay. CFO gets it, punts it down to the HR lady or man. And I don't have any ill will about any of those three designations, but I will tell you from experience, there are two totally different conversations when you're talking to the CEO and the CFO about cost, when you're talking to the HR person about people. So these are people decisions. Oh, you know what? It's like credit cards for everybody. Let's give them everything. Let's not worry about if the company's going to be profitable on one end of the fence. And then you got the CFO over here saying, 15%. I don't know how we're going to distribute this, pass the buck. We'll just push this off on them, which a lot of employers have been doing. If you ever look at under 100 employees this time, if you ever look back 20 years ago, I'd say 30-40% of people had family members covered.
Yeah.
Dependents. Today, in a 50 life company, 3, 4, 5, they're the owners.
that
Maybe
low?
it's the owners people that bought up, right? So that's another dirty little secret in this Unaffordable Care Act, is that not only has our exposure gone up tremendously, our premiums gone up tremendously. It's there's a lot of elements here. So you want the good news, which normally I just like to talk about the problems, because the good news is what y'all should be paying me for. So
That's right.
the good news though, and I'll couch it because it's so complex that y'all aren't going to be able to chase it. But yes, the reason the book started, Great Resignation of Small Employer Health Plans, is because I see the writing on the wall, and I've done this in a podcast, so I'll do it on yours real quick. Is that I'm sorry, I've been doing this so long, I see patterns. I early adopt. I'm normally, my mentor taught me, read legislation, you set yourself apart from your competition, and it takes everybody else 10 years to catch up to you. And I do in this Affordable Care Act, and I've read Hillary Care and all that other stuff before that. But here's the deal, is that, the legislation has changed. The first thing y'all should know is, why are you not hearing about that? So legislation has changed for small employers, 2 to 50 employees. And I want to make it really clear, when you're under 50 employees, employers are not required by law to provide, offer, sponsor, or fund a health insurance policy. When you're over 50 or more employees, the way it says, 50 or more employees, full-time equivalent, then ultimately, if the employer doesn't provide health insurance and the employee has to pay more than 9.5 or 9.27, whatever it is right now, 9.5%, then there's a fine, right? And that fine's up to like $4,000 and some change now. Still cheaper than the health premium at $7,500 though, right? But same problem. How do you get people, good quality people, on board without a health plan? So here's the writing on the wall, and it works for small employers. It doesn't work for large employers. So I'll just keep it clean. 2 to 50 employees, state of Texas. 1 to 50 in Florida, whatever. Obama, on his way out of office, put in a piece of legislation called the Consolidated Appropriations Act, 2016, I believe. And in that legislation, it addressed a fundamental element that changed with what's known as health reimbursement accounts. Okay? So back in the old days, an HRA, not an HSA, not a health savings account, an HRA, health reimbursement account, was something that the employer sponsored, and the employer is the only one that funded it. Okay? And an HSA, an employer or an employer, grandma can fund it, right? So in an HRA, what employers would do back in the 90s, 80s and 90s, is that they would say, wow, we got a 10% increase from Blue Cross. We're going to take our deductible from $500 to $1,000. But John, as an employee, don't you worry. We put the other $500 in a separate account for you over here. It's called a healthcare reimbursement account. And all you have to do is fill out a form and claim the claim, and third-party administrator will validate it, and we'll reimburse you that money. Okay, so what happened? Well, they took the 10% increase, they moved their plan to cut the 10% increase off, and they allocated monopoly money, $500 into each employee's account. You meet your $500 deductible that we had, and then we'll cover the next $500 before it kicks in at $1,000, right? And so that was a way for an employer to take control and manage. Instead of sending that money to the insurance company, they're sending some of it into the account, and people would build up accounts. The employer at the end of the year, had an oncologist, leading oncologist, did this, and he says, Mr. Canada, he says, we did that health reimbursement account for the 7 doctors, and we put $48,000 in that account. I'm like, great. He goes, we used $4,000. We reimbursed out of that 48, so there's $44,000 left. What do we do with it? It's like, you keep it. He goes, what? I said, it can go back into general assets. You can roll it forward and double up. Now you're giving them more money on the next cycle. It's up to you. You're in control now. So that health, the reason I'm honing in on this again, that's the old model. All right. The new model is, and the old model didn't allow, let me say this, the old model, health reimbursement accounts out of the, 1980 or whatever it was, basically said that you couldn't reimburse John, the employee, his premium. You can increase their deductible, not necessarily a copay, sorry, but other acupuncture, other things could be pulled out of this account, like an HSA would be a good example. However, that money's just employer money. He gets to roll it over or lower the overall bottom line. And ultimately, he's taking control of his health plan by funding it with a different
Yeah.
mechanism. It's a different funding mechanism. And the legislation allows it. And I always ask people that if I'm the first person that's ever said this, and this is the first time that you've ever heard this, you should ask yourself a question: why? The why is that your broker doesn't make money like this. The why is the insurance company just lost premium. The why is y'all need to do business with me before they all come get me. All right.
I love it, Don.
It's,
So what would you say?
I hope that people take away, and I know it's doom and gloom. So there is an opportunity. The opportunity is to learn the legislation. And I've always said this, and they have you. That's the greatest thing about your audience is that I don't care what y'all do, but you don't have to know the ACA. You need to know somebody that does, though. And you can't expect that your broker read all this stuff because your senator didn't read it. And 50% of those brokers were out of business when 2014 got here. All right. So the talent pool has been liquid, it's been modified or diminished. And so, the answer, yeah, seek better advice. How many people do I come across? And the second question is, hey, how many brokers did you shop during this cycle? One. I mean, play golf with a guy on
Just called
Wednesdays,
somebody.
right?
Yeah, just called.
Yeah, I mean, lives two doors down or whatever it is. My brother-in-law. It's fine, but this is depending on your business model and stuff like this. This is somewhere between health insurance, just the health insurance piece, not the other stuff, taxes and payroll and all that stuff. The health insurance piece is typically like 5 to 15% of a company's bottom line.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah.
So if you're ignoring that quadrant right there, right? Just like people ignore tax or accounting, right? Then what I'm trying to teach people is that, hey, if skyrocketing costs are the problem, there's probably hidden savings within your plan right now. You just don't know it.
Absolutely. And Don, let me just say this. I think that there's two sides to it. There's the cost cutting side, or at least cost control side, and then there's the recruiting side, bringing people in and having an attractive opportunity. And even if you're not providing certain benefits, you can still have an attractive opportunity that allows people to take care of what they need to take care of from a healthcare or health benefit perspective. So what I'd love to do, maybe do another talk where we get a little more specific about certain case scenarios, right? Certain scenarios, because there is so much to unpack here. I know, having been at a big company where you're picking benefits, I've even been at where I'm working with the insurance company or the brokers to design a benefits package, which is not simple because they ask you all these questions and you're like, well, what am I supposed to just give me the best? And then, or give me something that people will like. And you have to really answer questions you've never answered before. And you don't know, like, hey, what's going to be attractive and what's going to be a good service.
I mean, how many people have ever stopped in your life and taught you benefits? That'd be a question I have. I mean, nobody does this stuff. All right. I mean, it's, one, they don't know, or two, they know and they don't want to talk about it. And, I've always been the guy, even with large physician groups, that, I want to tell you everything you need to know. And I want you to use that to your advantage so you can make better educated decisions. And that's a long-term CLV formula that most people in my industry have not figured out. It's a transactional environment. Everything lives and dies by that commission. I know that you trust your guy that you've been working with for 10 years. I got that. But now I've told you he works for the insurance company. And when I tell you, whether you have your broker compensation disclosure statement or not, or you're violating ERISA, when I tell you that he took a lavish trip to England last year with bonus dollars from United Healthcare, does that change your decision? If your brother-in-law is the guy, but a guy came in and showed you $200,000 worth of savings, how much do you really like your brother-in-law? And so there's not a lot of advice in my industry. All right. And again, I'm going to say this again: large organizations, big agencies, high-end consulting, Aon, Marsh, all these guys, I know they get that at that level. All right. So I'm not talking to this marketplace up here, the over 200, but I can tell you from experience for 30 years that 2 to 200, they have a unique set of problems. And I don't think anybody's really trying to solve their problem. We're just going through the same dance and show that we've done for year after year after year, and we hope everybody's happy. And they're not happy. They're not happy with the premium coming out of their check. They're not happy when I teach them how large their out of pocket is after that. And there are solutions to this. There, and it's normally done with money. I'll make it real. This is take control again, and so whether it's giving employees money to go purchase their own health insurance, get out of the business, it's freaking, I mean, that's a model I already have in play called the shift. I'm shifting the responsibility of health insurance to the person, not the employee. And it's no longer part of your comp package. However, when you had that little brochure that said you had Blue Cross and all these benefits and you didn't use them and it cost all this stuff, what if you had a page in there that says, hey, we put $7,500 in an account for you this year, John. Good luck. And you went out and bought your policy. And ultimately, let's say that, you bought your policy for $5,000 a year due to subsidy.
Keep the rest, right?
What's the positive? What's the good news? The good news is that they need to have a different conversation. They need to learn to have somebody help them take control or personally take control of their health insurance, the largest number. I know all that other stuff, but dental's $35 a head. Who cares? $700, $800, $900 is what you focus on. And employers have to start looking at this like any other financial line item. Not that it's $600,000. This is expensive. Like, hey, do you think we could trim anything in here and maybe improve the benefits at the same time? And I know that's like an oxymoron, but when you have somebody who's been doing this as long as me, I can show you 7 ways to cut cost. Heck, I could get you down to 0%, like no cost. And you might want to do that actually. It's just
well done,
changing your mindset.
It's so intriguing to me because, like I mentioned, I think this is one of the secret competitive advantages in a small business is being able to control this cost and be able to still attract really good, smart talent.
Perfect. Let me resonate on that. So the $25,000 a year in premium. Now, basically that small employer competitive advantage. I've written an article on this too. Love it because I'm not burdened as an employer. As a small employer, I'm not burdened at 25 grand or 7 grand or whatever I'm paying for their health insurance. Where could that money be spent? Marketing? Lead generation? New customers? And so I like to teach people there's a bucket of money underneath your Blue Cross Blue Shield United Healthcare billing statement.
Yeah.
Nobody does deep analytics on this stuff. Nobody does audits. Nobody in the small group sector, again, and there's exceptions to the rules. I'm not talking to everybody, but 6 out of 10, they're not even auditing their bills. And then they find out grandma's on the plan 3 months later than the employer had to pay for it. So there's so much slop in here. And the main advice that I have for everybody that has a small business is start paying attention. I mean, I know it's not sexy. I know it's not red Corvettes, but you know what? There's a red Corvette in your plan, technically. You just don't know it yet.
That's John, I know we're short on time. I think we should come back and talk through some specific, scenarios. I think that'd be really cool.
So I made the cut.
Tell them.
I made the cut then.
What's that?
I made the cut, the final cut.
Yeah, you made the cut for sure. I think this is such an interesting and valuable topic. I'm super interested and I want to pepper you with questions. But what I'd love to do now is just have you tell people how they can get a hold of you, because what you do, I think, is an immense value to anyone in business, whether you're solopreneur, small business owner, or your business is growing and you're thinking about all these issues. How do people get a hold of you, and what's maybe final word of advice that you'd have for people?
Yeah, thank you for that. So my name's Don Canada. I'm sticking to that. I live in Fort Worth, Texas, and I'm very proud of the state that I live in. I like to help small businesses 2 to 200 and just giving them solid advice. Typically, I have a conversation. We figure out where it goes from there, whether I can help or not. And they can reach me by email at don, at employeebenefitcoach.com. Or our office line at 640 Taylor, downtown Fort Worth, is 817-745-4608. And you can, I'm not very social media, but you can find me on LinkedIn, have a team trying to get me over to Twitter. Y'all bear with me. I'm a little old school on stuff. I did read all that paper, by the way, on the Affordable Care Act. It was just paper. And so the advice that I have is take control. And it starts by asking questions. And, whether it's asking questions with your existing service providers or supply chain, that's fine. I mean, ask them some questions that they're not being asked right now. If you need advice on how to have these conversations, I can help with that. If there's a situation where you're looking for one-on-one coaching, we work on, retainer basis, much like your industry, John. Or I really like projects. I like to come across something that's unique and there's a problem there and I see it and I know it can help. And then we talk about what that's worth. And that's how I work. And I've obviously flipped the table, done it much differently. And I've been extremely happy over the last 5 to 7 years because I'm not working for the insurance company anymore.
I love it. You're working for the entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. And to answer your question, so I think there's 3 segments, not to belabor you, but you asked for it. There's
Yeah.
3 segments here. There's a solopreneur, the individual, whether you're a business owner or an employee, technically, right? In that category, you have a unique market, that 2 to 50 marketplace. And then I just call it 51 or more. And I can speak to all that stuff. What I really like is to hone in. And so, like, if we did a solopreneur thing, I know that's valuable. Do I have any cash flow in that? Absolutely not. Do I want any cash flow in that? Absolutely not. Do I know a lot about the transition from group or Cobra to individual? Absolutely. Am I the guy that's going to tell you how it's really working versus selling you something? Yes. So that, like Friends of John, I use community gratitude in that area. So I would love to do a solopreneur thing. And I want your audience to know there's nothing they can call or buy from me afterwards. And that if that creates value for you and another solopreneur, I'm like Martha Stewart, man. I don't care if y'all make the pie or not. I helped you dream that you could.
I love that. Well, Don, it's been a pleasure to chat. Really enjoyed every single one of our conversations. I think I learned from it, and it gets me excited about some of the things that when I have conversation with clients about these issues, it's a energy suck, right? It's just draining and it's painful a lot of times. So you're reinvigorating me to kind of dive back into this topic.
Good. I'm also happy for our introduction through Armando. And obviously, after this call, I want to make sure your listeners understand as well. I need my stuff trademarked. And the podcast we talked about. So I would love to become a client of yours and start working on that stuff. And let me know when you're ready.
I love it. All right. Well, thanks for the time.
Thank you, John. Have a great day.